Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Live Impact News. Vanessa Rufus here. We're going to turn to a WCNC Charlotte investigation. Our Nate Morabito is joining us right now in the Live Impact News studio to talk about the latest piece that you're putting together for us. Folks can watch this, by the way, tonight in our evening newscast. But this has to do with safety concerns at an apartment complex where it sounds like the residents seem to think there could be means to kind of stop the safety concern from happening, but they say those barriers aren't happening, I guess, if you will.
I mean, that is a fact. So just a little while ago, actually, I went up to this apartment complex. It's called Gateway West. It's near Johnson & Wales University. And I wanted to see if they had fixed something in particular that I knew was a recurring issue. And as a guest of renters there, I easily got into the building. So it is an ongoing issue. And thus far, people have been scared and shocked by what they've seen. One woman has been in fear there, but nothing to the point of violence that I'm aware of yet, but that's what they're trying to prevent. And let me kind of paint the picture for you. Over the last several months, in the middle of the night, there have been people getting into the building, at first sleeping in storage closets. So if you can think of an apartment complex inside, the halls lining where people live, there are storage closets that at the time were unlocked. You can put your stuff in there. Think about, like, I don't know, what do you have? A bike, whatever you want to put in there, boxes. Well, people were actually building makeshift bedrooms in these storage closets.
Oh my.
Across from people's apartments. Started with that. People complained. They eventually locked it. But I'm going to tell you, just days ago, there are unlocked storage closets again, and one resident's raising concerns about that. Meanwhile, a person was found asleep late at night in the hallway outside of people's apartments. And that's when this woman you're going to hear from in a minute, Janice Fox, said she really kind of had enough of the situation. This was her teenage child, by the way, that walked upon this person. And again, nothing to say that that person was going to be violent, but if these people are getting in, who else can get in? And I think that's a very fair point. Particularly if you're living in somewhere that's uptown, you're paying a lot of money. You know, these are described as luxury apartments, and there are some real security issues there. So if we could listen to Janice real quick, Jeb, if you could pull up her sound so we can hear from her real quick.
Anybody can get in. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's anybody can get in it. Like I don't know who that person was when my son came home and found someone in the hallway. We don't know who it was. It could just been some random person. Just some random person sleeping in the hallway is scary. Like just random people who don't live here to be able to get in the building is not good. To be able to have people breaking into the building, to getting into the stealing stuff out of storage unit. We had. One time, my husband found downstairs by the workout area. I was in the workout area once, and these random people were downstairs that they didn't live in the building, and I ended up leaving because I felt uncomfortable.
So for those that maybe have a home, think about it as if someone is sleeping in your front yard every night or on your front porch. I mean, try to put yourself in that situation. People who don't pay rent are sleeping in this building. Now, I will tell you, the residents are sympathetic to the idea that there may be some people experiencing homelessness that maybe aren't finding the resources they need. But there's kind of a balance that's needed here. And we know we reach out to Mecklenburg County, what are you all doing? Their CARES team, they try to connect people with resources. We know police are aware of the situation there too. But I initially alerted the management at this apartment complex almost a month ago tomorrow, I believe is the exact date. And then to go back out there today and still have access issues is what's maddening for the people who live there. And I think you can understand that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking not just the concerns about the safety. I mean, well, let's talk about that for a second. Did the complex say that they were going to make any specific changes? And if so, what were those?
Well, specific, no.
Okay.
General, they say they always make changes when they're made aware of things. And thus far, the management company will not answer specific questions, only saying that, look, when we're made aware of something, we work to address it. Conditions change, things evolve. We know that at least at some point in the recent history, a courtesy officer, a CMPD detective, is kind of a person who lives there, is now considered a courtesy officer who can help people. They have some overnight security patrols outside, from what I'm told. But as far as actually making sure that access is only granted to people who can really be there, who have a key, who pay rent, we don't know what they're going to do. And I know that people there continue to get frustrated about this. This is not like a situation that they've resolved. In fact, just a few days ago, someone was saying, hey, I saw someone over here. They were acting kind of sketchy. We know that there have been concerns continue to be escalated, and thus far they say they're not really getting fully addressed. There is a safety gap that people continue to get around.
Has police said anything specific?
Not specific. We know there's been some reports filed. We know that the courtesy officer has said they've arrested a couple people over the last month or so connected to an uptick. These are his words in homeless trespassing. We know that trespassing is kind of taken an increase according to an attorney we've talked to. This is not the first case I've heard of an apartment complex in
Same.
Charlotte
Yeah.
where something like this has happened. Maybe like a one-off, though. I haven't heard of a repeated issue. And you're going to see these videos at 11 tonight. I mean, they're really surprising to think that this is just outside of people's homes. And I think maybe the bigger lesson for people is if you're renting somewhere, the law is in your favor in this kind of situation. The law really clearly says, among other things, if there's a common area, it's up to the landlord to make sure it's safe, right? And if you alert that landlord, they now have to reasonably respond and address it.
Yeah.
So it opens the door for litigation, which who really wants to have to do that? You know, that's not something that people want to do. But if it comes down to it, you do have recourse in this kind of a situation. An attorney we spoke to said, really, you should document all issues. You should always do it in writing to make sure that when someone is put on alert, there's a date attached to it, there's details. So we know how much time and effort they've had to respond and whether they have responded.
Yeah. Okay, so I do want to go back to that tangent I was about to go on a few moments ago. But, I mean, you said that you reached out to groups that deal with the unhoused and try to provide support. Did they give you any either advice or any insight into the situation? Oh, we've seen this a lot before? Nothing?
Nope. In fact, I started with roof above, right where the men's shelter is. They said, we really can't offer any information. You should reach out to the city. So I reached out to the city of Charlotte. They said, we're really not the right people to talk about this. You should reach out to Mecklenburg County. So I reached out to Mecklenburg County, who essentially said these people should talk to their landlord, right? And there's a couple of issues here. There is the broader issue of our housing crisis in this city. You know, this apartment complex, it's near a public park. It's near the interstate. It's, you know, I saw a couple of people as I was getting off 77 today to go back to this complex on the side of the road with signs. You know, how are we making sure that we're going out in our community and making contact with every person to let them know that there are resources? You know, that's kind of the bigger question, right? What's the landlord doing? Yes. Well, what's our community doing to make sure that we're connecting people with, if it's temporary housing, maybe it's food services, whatever it may be, medical services. And I think thus far, all the responses I've received from anyone who's responded to this has just been general and no real specific, here's what we're doing. Thankfully, I've been able to see some things in the community, you know, internal portal that talks a little bit more about, in specifics about what they're doing. But the overarching issue, the safety gap that we know exists, has not been addressed because I just experienced it not too long ago today.
So I know you mentioned the whole potential of litigation. Nobody wants to go down that path. You alluded to. What else? Is that it?
That's the real issue here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to
It's costly. It
this?
takes a long time.
Right, and then your alternative, Vanessa, is you deal with it directly and you confront somebody and say, hey, you don't live here, you know.
Yeah.
So look, you call police every time that there's someone trespassing. You document with the landlord every time. Obviously, these renters didn't think they were getting heard because eventually I found out about it. And I think that as I was telling the attorney, I mean, no one should have to sue to get something resolved. And I think that this is the hope, that this, communicating this to the public will at least say, look, this is a real issue, and we want to get it addressed. But honestly, what are the other alternatives? You know, this is an apartment complex. These people don't own their property, so they are at the mercy of the management company.
Is this a company that owns other
It is, yeah.
complexes
It
around
is.
our area, and maybe even in other states, probably?
I know in our area for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay, so this is going to be 6 and 11, right, tonight here
Yeah,
on
I'll be on
WCNC
briefly
Plus?
tonight at 6, but yeah, the full story is going to air tonight at 11 on
Okay.
WCNC.
And I guess anything you want to leave our viewers with as they watch this piece, just things that they maybe want to be asking themselves or just thinking about maybe as they watch your story.
I feel like I've said this before, you know, unless it's super egregious, the first call or email really shouldn't be to a news station. It should be to try to address this in good faith, right? And if it still does not get a resolution, I feel like that's what we're here for, to kind of fill in the gap. And I think we've given this time to get resolved. And the minute I found out that there was still an issue, I said, I got to see this for myself today. I mean, at some point, there's an accountability factor here. There's some liability as well. I mean, I'm not going to tell somebody how to get into a building, right? But we dealt with the same issue. I don't know if you remember, it's been a year and a half, 2 years ago. In the condo Uptown above Chima, where Cam Newton owned a unit there, LaMelo Ball lives, Michael Jordan owns a unit there, and there were similar security issues there. And when we put it out there, it was finally addressed. But oddly enough, it's kind of a similar situation where I was, again, easily getting access into this building. And if you think about Uptown, the amount of traffic that is around that area, just anybody that's looking to do something bad, that is not something you want. It's like leaving your front door unlocked all day, every day, you know, just inviting somebody in. Is that a chance you want to take? I mean, these people are locking their doors, but they have no control over the doors that belong to the apartment complex. So it's just something to think about when you're trying to deal with this kind of stuff. You know, I'm talking to some other people about something completely different, and I'm like, well, have you done this, this, and this? Just to show that you really are trying to get this resolved, that we're not trying to make a headline here. This is not what this is about. We're trying to help keep people safe, and we want to give everybody a fair shot to correct this without blasting it on the news. But if at some point there becomes a pattern, there's a bit of a trend happening here, and I just think that we want to avoid it getting to this point, and if it doesn't avoid getting to this point, then we do what we have to do to make sure these people are safe. I mean, there's tons of people that live in this building, you know, and they have a documented set of concerns over and over again. And some of them are afraid. I've talked to several of them who just don't feel comfortable talking on camera because they're afraid. You know, that's not a way to live, especially when you're shelling out all that money every month for a convenient, safe, luxury apartment.
Yeah. I mean, rent is consistently, I feel like for most folks, the most expensive cost that they have every month.
And what do you
And to
get
not get what you are paying for, at the very least. I mean, there are other concerns, other layers to this, obviously, but the very basic level of you're paying for something, not getting that is a concern.
Yep, totally.
All right, Nate, thank you so much.
Thank you. See you in a little bit.
Yep, we'll see you at 6 and 11, folks.